Hello, and welcome to another episode of If You Can, I Can, dedicated to all of the inspiring Islanders here in the Hilton Head community. Today's guest is someone I think everyone will be inspired by. He's originally from New Jersey, you'll note the accent, where he spent 20 years working at the world-famous Metropolitan Opera House until he decided one day he needed to make a major life change for himself and his family and made the move to Hilton Head. He is now the founder of FMS Running, which stands for First Mile Sucks, Truth, a UESCA licensed professional coach, ultramile runner, competitor, mental health advocate, and a realtor on the Prud'homme Team. What is most interesting about his story is his willingness to be vulnerable and speak about his mental health that led to this major change, his passion for helping others, and how running saved him. Buckle up for one great episode. Welcome, Ron Maver.
Thanks, Kim. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm honored to be here, especially with the quality of the past guests that you've had.
Oh, that's nice. Well, as you know, after I met you when you joined the team, it was funny because Dan had said, oh, wait till you meet this guy that's joining the team. And after I met you, I think it wasn't too much into when you started. I was like, I have to have you on my podcast. But I've had so many runners that I, thought, oh, I've got to take a little bit of a break here. But I don't know what it is. I guess it's just the mindset of a runner that I'm so fascinated by. So anyway, I'm so thrilled that you're here, and I just feel your message is very important. And so I just wanted to go ahead and have you. So thanks again. Tell me, diving right in, how long have you and your family been visiting Hilton Head?
So originally I came down with my wife probably now 24 years ago, I guess. And at that point, it was just me and her, and we were dating. And we just came down here on a couple of days of vacation. And then on and off throughout the years, we'd come. And then once we had children, we started coming every year. So consecutively, probably like the last 10 years or so, we came, and every time it would just like break our hearts to leave. Mm-hmm. And we missed it so much. And it was just, when we got back up to New Jersey and we got back into the rat race, we always thought to ourselves, like, what if we could just extend that and that lifestyle, and not necessarily just the vacation aspect of it, mm-hmm. but just the natural beauty and the laid back vibe of the island. And I guess it was 2 years ago now, we came, and my wife just broke down crying when we left. And we started talking about, what if we did this? What if we really made this happen? And we made a plan. We were committed to it. I think everyone thought we were out of our minds in the beginning. I don't think anyone thought we would ever follow through with it, because we were so entrenched in New Jersey with our family and our jobs and everything. Right. And we just made it happen.
So how long have you been here now?
A year. We actually, it was just a year this past week, which is funny because you always wonder exactly how long you are. And then your Facebook memories pop up. Yeah. And then you're like, in some ways it's magical, because you put yourself, when you see those pictures, right back to where mm-hmm. you were sometimes, whether it be a year ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. These memories pop up and you're right back there. So yesterday was the 1 year anniversary of our first dinner in the house, which popped up.
That's exciting. And it's a pretty easy place to relocate to, just because I feel like, because it's so transient. I mean, there's lots of people moving in here, not so much out, but occasionally. But people are pretty friendly and welcoming, right?
Yeah, it was way easier than we ever imagined it could be. My wife had this plan, and she's big into manifestation and focusing on things and writing things down and journaling. And true story, everything that's happened to us this past year, she had years ago written in a notebook. And she had the street that we were going to live on. She had the area we were going to live, like how everything was going to work out. We started off renting our house. She had it that we were going to buy that house. We ended up buying that house. So it's been a magical year for us, and it's hard to put into words. But overall, the island was so welcoming, and it's just, you can't help but be in a good mood around here.
Yeah, I love that. You guys are definitely like set a goal and achieve. But anyway, okay, so take us back to New Jersey. You're married with 2 kids. You're working at the Met. And what was your job there exactly?
I was a stagehand, so I was in the prop department, and we were responsible for all the flooring on the stage and the furniture that gets moved around. Basically, we built the sets for the shows.
Okay, so in talking to you a little bit about that, it sounds like a physical grind, but it was also a mental grind, right?
Yeah, it's a grind. That's the best way to put it. You work about 85 hours a week for 9 months out of the year. You go in at 8 or 9 in the morning. You get home 11 or 12 at night.
Wow.
You do that 5 days. Like for me, my day off was Friday, and then we worked on Saturdays. So I would see my kids on Sunday, and then I wouldn't see them again until Friday. So, that's a grind, and it's tough on the entire family, not just me. My wife is running around. My in-laws are helping. You're not really present. When you are, you're tired. You're worn down for so long. It's a grind.
Yeah. So was there eventually a time where you kind of got to, okay, like I can't, this is killing me?
Yeah. It was weird because I think as a person, I changed over the 20 years. I went into it as a 22-year-old kid, fresh out of college, just looking to, hold myself over before I figured out what I wanted to do. And it's tough. Anytime you work with a bunch of guys and good guys and you're tight, but it's like family and like any locker room or anything else, you do have to have like a certain level of toughness to you.
Yeah.
And that type of thing. And I think over time I became cynical and I changed as a person, but I didn't realize I changed as a person because it was so gradual.
Yeah.
And I went into the building as one person, and then I kind of lost my way. And I don't know what happened. I guess almost like any arc, I hit the point of where I was cynical or whatever the case may be. And I would start reading books about inspiring people, whether they were ultra runners or, we have a lot of downtime. So I would read these books in the hallway, and then I would think and dream about like doing all these different things. And then finally I was like, well, why don't I start doing it? And it wasn't until I had shoulder surgery and I was out of work for 8 months. And that gave me a chance to really concentrate on myself and really do some work on myself. It was also a shock for everybody because I was never home before. So that was the first time in 20 years I had been around my wife that much, around my kids that much. And, it was a tough adjustment for everybody. And it made me realize that I needed to fix certain things about myself.
Yeah. And I feel like that's a hard realization to come to for a lot of people. And so I want you to talk a little bit about how you ultimately decided that your mental health was a priority. And because I think, not to single out men, but I think it is more difficult for men often to really dig deep like that. And I read this quote by Ashley Stahl, who's like a business coach. And she said, whether the lies you are telling yourself or others are big or small, we all tend to know what we know, and we spend all day trying not to know it. And instead of taking ourselves deeper, we block it out and think we are stronger until one day the truth becomes so loud it demands our attention. Is that relatable?
Yeah. And it demanded our attention in the sense of like the happiness at home, how I interacted with my wife, how I interacted with my kids, like the well-being of my marriage. I wasn't getting along with anybody. And it was a lot of self-frustration taken out on other people and how I reacted to them. And it wasn't until my wife really called me out on my BS, to be honest with you. And she was like, you got it. Like, I don't even recognize it. You have to go, like, try to straighten this out. And what it really was more anxiety more than anything, and not wanting, basically what you're saying is not wanting to deal with that anxiety. That anxiety then turns into anger and frustration. And when you're angry and you're frustrated, you take it out on those closest around you. And right. I mean, it wasn't an abusive relationship, but I just wasn't operating at 100%. I wasn't the person I wanted to be. And I'd always made excuses that, while I was tired from work, I'm doing this. And it wasn't until I was home and I wasn't working. I had surgery. I wasn't doing anything.
Couldn't escape.
I couldn't escape. I was running out of excuses, and deep down, I knew she was right. And I also knew that I never wanted to live my life without her, or without seeing my kids every day. And it was hard. And I think a big mistake people make is they try to change everything at one time. And this is going back now over the course of probably like 5 years ago for me to get to this point. And I'm still not where I want to be, but I'm a whole lot closer than I was. But it started off little. And it would be...
Give me an example.
So instead of, like for me, a big thing was drinking. Not excessive, but it was close to the point of being excessive. So I decided that I would just cut that down. Not completely cut it out, but I didn't want my kids to wake up and see me hungover and be like, they were getting of the age of like, what is, like if I was hungover, like, wait a minute, what's going on with him? He's not operating fully. So I stopped doing it to excess. And then next, at that point, I was probably 50. Now I was probably about 55, 60 pounds heavier. Yeah. So I started improving my diet. And then, I went to go talk to somebody. I went to a psychiatrist. But, when I went in and I talked to my wife, I was like, I don't want to get medicated. Like, I felt like there's nothing wrong with it, but that wasn't the path I wanted to take. I wanted to find out what was really wrong. Yeah. And so I went, and within the first 10 minutes, he had prescribed me Zoloft and Xanax and lithium, and I was like, no. And I just got up and left. And then it was a couple of weeks later, a friend of mine recommended somebody, and I went in and I spoke with him, and we just hit it off immediately. And he was a psychologist, not a psychiatrist. He didn't prescribe medicine. It was just, let's sit down and figure this out. But I should also add, because I know you have a love of him too, in between that, a friend of mine had sent me a podcast with Jesse Itzler on Joe Rogan. Yeah. And I just shared that podcast with somebody at the office. And that podcast has meant so much to me that I've listened to it over and over again. And he talks about life and how you want to spend your life and how important time is and the reverse engineering of time and that type of thing. And even to this day, when I run a race, I have certain traditions, and listening to that podcast during the race is one of them. So I just thought about how I want to spend my time and, what kind of life I was living. And, I was spending 80% of my time at work when I was awake. Like that's not living. So anyway, I got sidetracked here, but I went, I spoke with him. We hit it off, and that was it. Like I was in a real dark place. I was in a real bad place, and he knew it. I knew it. And the best way I could describe it, especially now being in the real estate business, is when you walk into a house and it's just a mess. I had to take myself and I had to gut myself and strip it to the bare bones. And it wasn't easy. I went in, and the first couple of sessions were just not first couple of sessions. First year was really just like it's hard to admit how messed up you are, how you have to totally rearrange your way of thinking, and I had to do that. And I wasn't ready to do it all at once.
It's hard. And exhausting.
It's exhausting. It's draining. It's humbling. But the things he said made sense to me. And again, it wasn't like a magic pill where it happened. We're talking over long stretches of time where I would just work on little things little by little. And, that helped. But obviously the running helped. And it was a combination of different things.
Sorry. So take me back. So tell me where does the running fit in? Where did it begin in this whole... I know you used to run some, and going back, you were, I think, a soccer player and all of those. So you've always been into sports and athletics and everything. But in this particular journey, where did the running start to really play a part? So
again, going back, so I used to read all these books when I was at work, and a lot of them had to do with ultramarathons. And Dean Karnassus was one of the original guys who came out and wrote a book about it. And he would be telling these stories about running at night and ordering a pizza and having the guy deliver a pizza to him when he was running. And it was just all these different like stories, and I always dreamed of it. And And I was like, wow, it's amazing. But I never had the gumption to go for it. I ran marathons in the past. 2007 and 2009, I ran New York City, and I would go back and forth. And then after 2009, I basically just fell off a shelf and wasn't running at all, and was just kind of going through life like still living on the glory of running a marathon in 2009, but it's 2013 or 14. It's 5 years ago. Yeah. People were looking at me like, wait a minute, this guy looks like you ran a marathon, like it wasn't, I didn't look like a marathon runner anymore, but I was still like, hey, I ran, but I was never fully committed to it. And then, I don't know, something made me sign up for this race called Rock the Ridge. That was a 50-mile race. It was coinciding with me starting to go to therapy and looking for a renewed purpose. But before that, like when I had the shoulder surgery, I would just walk. And I found that it kind of just quelled my anxiety. My anxiety had like a weird, everybody's forms in a different way. And for me, it always came across as a choking sensation. So you could tell like I get twitchy, I get nervous. I always felt like I was choking. Yeah. And this kind of just quieted everything down, from the moment, even to this day, from the moment I wake up, my brain is firing till I go to bed. And I just have to figure out how to keep that even. People around me, I had a hard time ever understanding like how people just relax and just chill out. And I could never do it.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I have a hard time relaxing.
Yeah, like I can't. And, when I wake up, I've gotten better at it through meditation things, but it was like, boom. And, before I got out of bed, I'd be worrying about traffic in the city and the fact that, the show tonight's going to suck. I'm not going to get out here till 11:30. And before you knew it, by 8 o'clock in the morning, I'd be having a panic attack. So anyway, I started walking and that brought peace. And then I signed up for this 50-mile race, which I had no business doing, but it gave me a purpose and a goal. And shortly after I signed up for that race, I had a friend who was a father of one of the players on my son's soccer team, and he ended up passing away from an overdose. And so I dedicated that race to him, and I started a GoFundMe page, and we raised money for his name was Taj, so we raised money for Taj's family, including his wife Sarah and their children. So that gave me a renewed sense of purpose and something that I couldn't back out of this now. People had counted on me. And once I started that running, I don't know, it was, I've talked about it in the past, I'm not particularly religious, but I've become much more spiritual through that running process. And that has become my religion. That's become my, way to process things, to think about things. Like I won't make any major decisions without going for a run. And it spoke to my soul, and it was just magical to me. And I found that I was able to overcome fear of running, and that translated into regular life. I talked about this morning on my Instagram page that I would go running in the trails, and you know what? I would be scared of what's ahead, but guess what? There's no way of getting out of this woods unless I either go ahead or behind. Either way is the unknown.
Right.
So I would just, at first I was nervous, but then I would just go running through the woods. And then, as life came at me, I used those same tools to be like, all right, like this is it. I can either keep moving forward to get where I have to go, or I can let fear win out.
Right. That's such a great point, and kind of leads me to this question. So my question is, what does learning to be comfortable being uncomfortable mean? And when you are out on a 100-miler, I want to know what goes through your brain. Now, I'm going to read you a quote that you wrote in your own words from your blog post that I think is really cool, because I've often thought what do you do to entertain your mind when you're on something that's 24 hours or whatever? Because for me, that would be hard. I'm such a music person. I would have to have music blaring through my brain the whole time. But anyway, so I'm going to quote you and it's a little bit of a read here, but I feel like it's all really important for people to hear. So According to you, your body is on, but it's on an autopilot. Your mind is somewhere else. It's in a weird, dark place. You think of weird stuff. Stuff from your childhood pops in, weird, meaningless things that were buried. You think of your wife, your kids, your family, your friends, people that have passed, people that are no longer in your life. Connie, the crossing guard from the elementary school, Mrs. Hughes, the school nurse, and all your mistakes come crashing down on you. And then you go on to say, why do I have to run 100 miles in the woods to find peace? Have I lived a good life? Am I a good person? I wonder what happened to that kid in the HBO documentary on gangs in DC I watched 15 years ago. Why do I remember that? Will my kids be proud? Will I see the world clear after this? Has all this training and this pain of stripping my soul down to its bare bone been worth it? What is my purpose? And then you go on to say, this race represented life to me. So if you can just, talk about maybe what that's like going through all of that.
Yeah. I mean, to me, like the 100 miles was always something special. It was always something I wanted.
And you just completed one, by the way.
Yeah.
So everybody knows that.
About 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah. I came in third place.
Yes.
It's incredible.
Yes. Thank you. And for me, there was something special about that distance in particular. I mean, it's there's so few people. I think it's less than 1% of the population that has ever done it. So it's a unique experience, and it's for me just on average, say like 24 hours or a little under, or whatever the case may be. It's a long time to travel on foot, and they call it life in a day for a reason, because you hit all the highs and lows that you would throughout the course of your life, but in a condensed 24-hour period. And, much like you, I love music.
Yeah.
I can't get enough of it. It's always on. We have music on at dinner in the house. If I'm cleaning, I have music. If I'm mowing the lawn, I have music on. We go to concerts all the time. It's one of the
you quote music all the time on your Instagram page. Yeah,
almost every day.
Yeah.
And I usually run with music or a podcast, but for some reason when I run races, I do listen to some music, but I also take time to reflect. And it's weird. Your body will tell you what it wants. So it'll tell you if it wants, cookies or potato chips or watermelon or water or Gatorade. It will also tell you if it wants a podcast, music, or silence. And when you go into silence, it's, when you get into those dark periods that I'm talking about, it's usually, it's the toughest part of the race for me is usually about 70, 75 miles in. You let your guard down a little bit, because before that, when you first start running, you don't think when you get done with your first mile, I have 99 left. You just think like, I just have to get to the next aid station. I just have to get to the next loop. I just have to get to see my wife at the next stop. And you don't even think about mileage at that point. But I find when I'm 70, 75 miles in, I take my guard down a little bit, because now I break things into fractions. And I'm like, all right, you're 3/4 of the way home. You're almost there. You got this. You don't realize you still have another marathon left.
Exactly.
And a marathon at that point in the race, when you're probably doing a walk-run combo, could be 6 hours, could be 7 hours. So by 2 miles later, you're kind of getting slapped in the face. The happiness is gone, and it's gone big time. And you can't control your thoughts. And I think it's just a combination of being tired and excited at the same time, but you go into this altered state where you're not here. You're not even on this earth. It's hard to describe. You're a machine, and you're just moving one foot in front of the other, and that's all you know. And like anything, when you have time and you're out in the woods and just weird stuff pops in your head, and you start having hallucinations a little bit, and you really, I don't know if it's something from being physically exhausted or whatever it is, but you really take a hard look at yourself and what your life represents, and the sacrifices that not only you made to be here, but your kids make to be here. I'm out training. I don't miss much anymore, but it's still a sacrifice. My wife is waiting in a tent every 4 hours for me to come by so she can, feed me and,
Yeah.
and, my kids are with my in-laws and there's sacrifices on everybody's part. And you just wonder, like, how did I get here? Like, why did I get here? And there's no answers to it, but you just know it feels right. Yeah. And, there's moments that, I had this moment this past race. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning, I guess, and the sun was just creeping up a little bit. And I was happy to see it because it was so dark out there and it was isolated. And you just realize that, like, for that sun to come up, a million things have to go right. That we're on a spinning rock in space. Like, an asteroid can't hit it. The Earth has to stay in orbit. There's a million things have to go right for that sun to come up. And in order for that to happen, that's a miracle. And so every day is a miracle. And for you to waste one of those days is like the biggest tragedy on earth to me. And, I would have never had that profound thought if I didn't run that race. But there's such a beauty in the pain that you go through out there that you've pushed yourself beyond, or what I define as my limit. I've pushed myself beyond. I mean, some people run 200 miles. I'm not, I don't have any inclination right now for it, but you push yourself beyond what's possible. And it makes you wonder, like, what else in life are you selling yourself short on? What else can you push yourself beyond? And it's just this sense of, it's not arrogance at all. It's not. It's pure gratitude, but it's just pride in knowing that you've done that. And you know that if you've done that, then what the hell? Why can't I do
You can do
anything else that, what else can I accomplish? Right. What else is out there? What's my limit? What's my purpose? Like, it's just, it's like a borderline religious experience is the best way I could describe it.
It's really powerful what you're saying. It sounds like it's transformative. Each time you do something, each time you do 100-miler or something, and it brings gratitude and just kind of otherworldly peace. So how do you think your ability to withstand all of that mental and physical pressure, duration, all of that translates into life and your work?
I think the best thing it does is a couple of things. One, it puts you in your place. It realizes you're not that important. Yeah. You're a small cog in this wheel in life. But it also helps you, in terms of life, deal with problems that arise. When you run a race, it's a process. In the same way that in real estate, it's a process. So you can't have your final inspection until you make an offer, until a contract is signed, until you do a first inspection, until everything else is met, monies are granted, and then you're, a final inspection. The same way, you can't go through life, or you can't go through a race without going through the process. And you have to problem solve on the fly. If you're like this past race, my feet were destroyed like 40 miles in. And then, it comes with experience. I would have tried to rush out of there before, but this time I let them dry out. I took some extra time. I thought about things, and then, I dried them out, and then I proceeded. It's the same thing. I know in life now, if something goes wrong, you can't just quit.
Right.
I have to, and my first inclination would always be to shut down. And now I've learned that doesn't work. Like, let's stop, let's problem solve. You can't panic. Let's keep cool and let's go. And now the next time, you know what? You're going to have a good run of life.
Yeah.
I'm on a good run of life now. But that doesn't mean next time there's going to be bumps.
Sure.
It's not all going to be rosy. And then the next time a bump comes up, it's the same way as when 2 or 3 tough miles in a race come up. It's, you can't stop at those 2 or 3 miles. You may not go as fast as you used to go, but as long as you keep moving, then you're going to get to the next good part. And that's really symbolic of my life, that as long as I keep moving and as long as I keep working, and, whether it be life or work, as long as I keep going forward, it's never going to end bad.
Right.
It's only going to get better.
Yeah. And I think so many people live their life with a great fear of failure, right? And I used to be that type of person. And by living that way, so many of us miss out on our chance to grow And if you hit rock bottom in the process, that can actually maybe be the greatest gift. Now, tell me about Bigger Than the Trail. It advocates for mental health through trail running, and you're involved with them. Is that right? Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I actually got involved with them through the first podcast I ever did. And then one of their founders, Todd, reached out to me. And what they do is, it's called Bigger Than the Trail. It's a mental health advocacy group that works through trail runners and ultra runners. And what they do is, so the average wait time of an appointment to get in with somebody is anywhere from 3 to 6 months.
An appointment with
a psychiatrist, a mental health expert, and that's just too long to wait. So they work with a team of doctors that help facilitate speeding up the process, and work with a team of doctors. And if you reach out to them, they will set you up. You'll have appointments immediately. The appointments are free of charge if you can't afford them. And they just get you into the process and help people that are available through that. So it's super important, especially, I ran into it myself. I called for like a week and just tried to find appointments, and I couldn't find anyone. And everybody was just booked months out, which is kind of even scarier that many people are looking for it.
It's an epidemic, really.
Yeah.
Now, how would somebody find Bigger Than the Trail? How could they reach out to you?
I have the link up on my Instagram page, or if they just Google Bigger Than the Trail, they can come out.
Okay. So tell me where people can find you on Instagram and all of that.
So I'm you can find me on my website, which is fmsrunning.com. I'm also on Instagram at fmsrunning, and the same with Facebook. And I'm on YouTube at First Mile Sucks Running. So if you just Google First Mile Sucks, I'll pop up.
I love really everything you've had to say. My last question is always, what advice would you give to somebody whose life was going about seamlessly and it just suddenly took a hard left?
Oh man, it's, as I said earlier, it's just about putting one foot in front of the other and just keep going, and just know. And I'm going to steal this from a girl I'm friends with on Instagram that is also a coach and an ultra runner in her own right. And her name's Logan. And she said something to me the other day that hit it, that your current state is not your final state.
Truth. So
if that hits you, if you're in a bad place, it's not your final state. It's just your current state.
I love that. Great, great words. So since you've been a guest, you get this just highly excitable bracelet. If you can, I know you already have one and wear one. I appreciate that, but give it to somebody who inspires you and share that. So thank you so much for sitting down here today, and just appreciate all your words. I know that there are many people that can really benefit from hearing what you had to say today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for the bracelet. I will wear it with pride. I'm honored to be here. If I could just end with one final thought too. I think, sorry to go over here, people too many times look around and see somebody and they think depressed, or people that have anxiety just walk around miserable all day long and like in this shell. And that's not the case. Like I, for the most part, was a happy-go-lucky guy. I'm, a ball buster. I love joking around. 90% of the time, 80% of the time I was happy, but those other 10, 20% of the time, they're rough. And I think people don't take that into consideration. It's something to analyze, and just remember that not everyone's fighting a war that you don't know about. So that's it. And as you said, with movement, I've had free-flowing conversations with people, beautiful conversations, the most in-depth conversations with strangers in the middle of the night at races. And I think we tend to overthink things. And when those preconceived notions are stripped down and we speak to each other just as human beings, there's some beautiful conversations that come out of there. But thank you so much for having me on. I'm humbled, I appreciate it. And I'm grateful to not only be able to do this with you, but be able to work with you every day. And I'm just so happy that you came into my life, and you're a special person.
Thank you. Likewise.
It's great to see you succeed. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And Such powerful words. So thank you. I really thank you all for listening today. And if you have somebody you'd like to nominate, and listen, no story is too small. Every story is important and something that can help anybody. So if you have a story or you know someone who does, I really would love to hear from you. You can call or text me at 843-368-1300. Go out there, win your day, and remember, if you can, I can.